It was a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind of place where people knew each other by name, and lives seemed to flow in predictable patterns. In this particular neighborhood lived a man named Peter, whose life had always seemed ordinary until the day it all came crashing down in a way he never could have imagined. Peter had been married to Laura for almost 15 years. They had met in college and quickly became inseparable, sharing dreams, struggles, and everything in between. Over the years, however, their relationship had become monotonous. The sparks that had once lit their lives had dulled, replaced by routine, silent dinners, and the occasional forced conversation. Peter worked long hours in a corporate job that kept him busy, and Laura, a stay-at-home wife, often found herself alone during the day. For months, she had been becoming increasingly distant, her mind and attention seeming to wander to places Peter couldn't quite reach. At first he thought it was just a phase, maybe something to do with stress or perhaps even a midlife crisis. But it wasn't just a passing phase. One day, while Peter was at work, he noticed something strange. His phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. It was brief. "I miss you. I wish we could be together." The message confused him. Who was this? Why was someone sending Laura messages like this? Peter decided to investigate. The more he dug, the more he found. Hidden in Laura's phone were dozens of messages, all from a man named Mark, someone Peter had never heard of. The messages were intimate, full of longing and affection, things that Peter hadn't heard from Laura in years. His heart sank. It was clear. His wife was having an affair. Torn between confronting her and not knowing how to handle the situation, Peter found himself in a dilemma. But what shook him to the core was what he discovered the following weekend. He had decided to come home early, hoping to catch a glimpse of what was really going on. The house was eerily quiet when he walked in. He could hear the faint sounds of movement upstairs. He crept up the stairs, his heart pounding in his chest. As he approached the bedroom, he froze. Through the slightly ajar door, he saw Mark, a man in his mid-30s standing by the window, looking out. Laura was sitting on the bed, her head down. Their conversation was low, but Peter could hear the soft murmurs. His breath hitched when he realized that the man was preparing to leave, and there was only one way out. Mark had planned it all. He wasn't going to risk being caught. Just as Peter was about to step forward and confront them, Mark noticed the open window and, in an instant, made a decision. Without a second thought, he leapt from the window onto the roof below, then swiftly disappeared into the night. Peter stood in shock. His world seemed to collapse around him as the realization hit. His wife's lover had escaped, not just from the bedroom but from any trace of evidence, leaving nothing but confusion and heartbreak in his wake. It was almost as if he had never been there at all. Laura remained in the room, unaware of Peter's presence. When she heard the rustle of footsteps, she looked up, her face pale as she saw her husband standing at the door, rage and betrayal etched on his face. She didn't even try to deny it. Instead, she simply nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, Peter." "I didn't know how to stop." Peter was left speechless. He didn't know what was worse, the affair, the escape, or the way his wife seemed to have resigned herself to the truth. The next few months were filled with silence, unanswered questions, and a deep sense of loss that couldn't be filled with apologies or explanations. What followed was an unraveling of everything Peter had believed to be true. He began to reflect on the small things he had missed, the late-night phone calls, the hushed conversations, and the way Laura had changed. It became clear that his marriage had ended long before he had ever realized. For Mark, the escape through the window was symbolic. He had gotten away without leaving a trace, but the damage he had caused wasn't so easily erased. The affair may have been hidden for a while, but the truth always has a way of coming to the surface. And for Peter, the real shock wasn't in the discovery itself, but in how everything that seemed so perfect could fall apart in an instant. The betrayal, the escape, and the rawness of the moment lingered with Peter long after. The house, once a home, became a reminder of a love lost, a trust shattered, and a life that would never be the same.